1 year ago today, we made predictions as a group. Each one of us made predictions on interest rates. To see how we fared, listen to this episode of The Den.
The Den, powered by the Lyons Group, a show dedicated to exploring hot topics in real estate, local happenings, and industry trends. We're a small team of professionals approaching $400 million in sales and nearly 2,000 local transactions. You're listening to time-tested experts and industry leaders. Here's a refreshing look at real estate happenings and more. Welcome to The Den.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of The Den. And today we're going to revisit our first episode where we made predictions on the interest rates, where there's some losers and some winners. So I can't wait to see who won and who lost and how we fared. But before I get to that, let me introduce my friends, my partners, my co-hosts, the fellow members of the Lyons Group. To my left, Paul Hammy the Rockberry, Aspen the Ninja Groen, and the boss, Shannon Martinez. My name is Ben. Nailed It Lyons. Have you ever seen that?
What?
The baking show, Nailed It?
Oh, yeah.
No? Come on, Paul. You're a baker. You know how to bake. Nailed It? You've seen Nailed It.
I've never heard of it.
Nailed It.
What? No, they make these like incredible cakes and they say, okay, they bring in like these quasi-professional
Cake boss?
Kind of like cake. But these people
they're
are
like not professional, really. And then they try and make this like masterpiece. And
It's just the one where they all fall over.
Yeah, and like, it looks like
I've seen that one.
Snoopy, and it ends up, looking like some monster, and they're like, nailed it. So that's me on predictions. I nailed it, maybe. I don't know.
You didn't nail this intro, though.
No, I did not nail this intro. But let's get right into it. We're going to do a quick wrap up of 2024 because this 1 year ago, we started The Den. So we have had 52 full episodes of this fantastic podcast. And I'm very grateful and very proud that we've gotten to this point because I listened to our first episode and it was terrible. It was cringy. Cringy. So, and none of you went back and you started, Aspen,
yeah,
but
I had to stop. I was getting embarrassed.
It was pretty bad, wasn't it? I
was like, what are we going to think in a year about today?
Exactly. But we're having fun. That's the most important part. Mm-hmm. But I want to do a quick kind of roundup of the year 2024 and look back at some of the things that maybe impacted or changed the industry, and then we can get into how we fared with our interest rate predictions because none of you went back and kind of
I don't remember what they were.
Any guesses? Do you have any guesses?
I think if I remember right, I think we predicted that this year they would fall.
I think we were saying like 5% or something like that.
Yeah.
Well,
I know. I nailed it.
I listened to it again and I wrote everything down. So it's going to be a big surprise. It's going to be great. And loser does what?
Has to buy
lunch. So I definitely know who that loser is. So I'll just smile to myself.
It better be Paul.
Yeah. Oh, and before we get into it, I do want to thank our sponsors of the show. Ryan and Brandy Brown, don't we have the greatest brokers?
We do. We truly do.
Our qualifying brokers are fantastic, and the owners of Remax.
And we have
our sweaters here. Mine's got cookie on it. The Lyons Group slays. So, so that was what 5 minutes of
5 minutes of nothing. Let's go.
Okay, all right.
That's
so
the best stuff.
We're in it now. Okay,
I want to win though. So let's get to it.
So big shakeup, Paul. I'm going to kick it off with you. 2024, what was the most memorable part of 2024 or the biggest change that you saw come down the line in our industry?
Well, what's it, Spitzer Burnett case?
The lawsuit.
That was industry. Well, as it was going on, it was paradigm shifting for all of us. And now we're like, it's fine.
It's commonplace now.
Yeah, not too bad.
And for our viewers or listeners, I should say, what was the big turnout with the Spitzer Burnett case? Like how did it impact the industry?
Well, the thought was it was supposed to make transparency in commissions. So the whole thing was sellers weren't allowed to negotiate or saying they weren't allowed to negotiate their, the commissions that realtors were asking for. So they changed everything and made it more, I'm doing a terrible disservice to this.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Yeah, you are, and that's fine. Aspen,
I did all the forms. I fixed it. But
clean up his mess, Aspen.
So basically, buyers were already pre-negotiated commission. They weren't able to negotiate it after the fact because it was already set by the seller. So the buyers were frustrated and didn't feel like there was full transparency, right?
this was the seller's case.
That's so crazy to me.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
That's where I was going with it, because it's on the seller's side. The buyers have their own case.
I've always been able to negotiate it, but now it's completely separate. So instead of us coming in and saying this is our brokerage fee, it's our fee for the seller's broker and then the fee for the buyer's broker.
But I think the sellers were upset that they were paying the buyer's broker to pretty much fight against them.
But they weren't really.
Mm-hmm.
The buyers always paid for it.
The buyers pay for it because John Gillum, we made this point the other day, a friend of ours, John, if you're watching, hi, thank you for this analogy, but was when you buy an apple at the store, you pay for the shipping and the polishing and the putting out and all the stuff that goes into getting the apple to the store. I mean, the buyer pays for that. And same thing in real estate. When you buy the home and the commission is baked in, then essentially the buyer paid for the commission.
Well, that's why we as the industry were saying this doesn't make any sense, but all the lawyers were going crazy with it, and the lawyers were the only one that made out.
Yeah.
I think the sellers got $700 a piece, something like that.
Yeah, it was like $1,500 or less. Yeah, it was something.
It was ridiculously low, and then the lawyer got $880 million or something like that.
Yeah, almost $1 billion to the lawyer, and good for him. It's capitalism, I guess. Hopefully, he invests back into his community and does some things with that. But that was, the decoupling of the commission. So that was a big change that led into, how we deal with buyers and sellers at this point. What's the biggest change for the buyers this year?
Buyer broker agreements.
Yep.
Now they have to sign a contract. They have to sign a contract with us before we can even open a door to them, with us explaining to them how we are going to get paid and what they are obligated to pay us.
And how has that gone over?
Wildly successful. Buyers love it.
That's sarcasm.
It's extremely uncomfortable. A buyer who is just starting the process, maybe they don't know you. They don't want to show up and sign a contract with you. They would like to get to know you, which is how we want to do business too. And I think that sometimes buyers aren't aware of that. We want to do business that way as well. We would like to get to know you. We would like to know that you're someone we want to work with and we're comfortable with us. And then we form a partnership and work together. But making someone sign a contract before at the first point of contact with them is extremely uncomfortable for buyers. But I think that, we've done a really good job at, doing contracts for one-time showing, just for the property showing, and then trying to earn that business. And once I've earned that, then we can sign a more meaningful long-term contract.
Yeah, I think that's, for me personally, that's how it's really kind of played out. Is the first showing is typically a single engagement for that property. And then it's like, let's talk through this and really make sure this is the right fit. Now, ideally, Paul, and you've said this many times, is let's sit down and have a buyer consultation before we show any properties and go through all of the rigmarole. But
the what?
Rigmarole. Have you ever heard that?
Rigmarole.
Rigmarole.
I've always said rigmarole.
You've always been wrong.
So close.
You almost had it.
I almost
say it again.
Rigmarole.
No, that's wrong.
Hey, it's a Northwest thing.
It's not.
That's
a you thing.
Pickleball and rigmarole are from the Northwest. Okay. It just is what it is. So all the rigmarole. How do you say that? Rigmarole?
Just stop. It doesn't sound right either way you're doing it.
But the way it plays out is, the reality is they don't want to buy a consult. They want to see a house. And so you're kind of pushed in a position where you either show them a house on a one-time deal and then have a follow-up meeting and then really sit down about needs, wants, and goals. Or you potentially lose a client, and that's fine either way. What's been your experience, Aspen?
Yeah, it was similar. I think it sounds good to say, yes, sit down and have a consultation first, get to know, go over the process, make sure they're, have all their paperwork done, they're pre-approved. And it does make sense on paper, but it doesn't really work as well as you would think in actual, what's that word?
Everyday practice.
Yeah, everyday practice, because people are used to just calling and wanting to see a house, and then you go see the house, and then you go over the consult and you go over all the stuff. people don't want to wait to see the house because we all know houses move really quickly. So I think the one-time signing to see the house has been a really good thing, and then do the full consult and get a longer contract.
And that first showing kind of is our first consult. We show up, we look at the house. This is where I'm getting to know, what do you want? They're walking through going, oh, this is everything we want. It has, 4 bedrooms and it has this and it has the open kitchen. And, this is where I'm getting to know what they want. Mm-hmm. And, we're talking about, okay, well, there might be a little bit of work that this house needs. What kind of, financing have you been looking into? Well, we talked to somebody, but it was a year ago or, whatever. Okay, well, let's get started on that path. Now we can have that conversation. And we're talking about, maybe this house works and maybe it doesn't for your financial plans. So I always find that first showing is kind of my consult. This is where I'm introducing myself and where I'm learning what they want, and they're learning the knowledge that I have to give them.
It's like a live interview almost.
Right. Right. Yeah. And when I leave there, then I know, are we having follow-up conversations? I'm going to reach out to you with a lender. I'm going to get a lender to call you, and I'm going to go ahead and pull up a list of some things now that I know more of what you want. And now we're moving forward, or we walk away going, yeah. Okay. Good luck to you out there. That is kind of our consult, is that first showing when we're meeting somebody and we're on the ground with them.
I think the opportunity we have, though, is to change the culture of how that first showing happens. I would prefer to have a full understanding of how it works. So if it's a house I like, I can get started on the process. Because there's been so many times where they go, what's next? I want to be able to go, we've already talked about this, so now we go through all those steps that we talked about in the consultation. So it hasn't worked yet, but would prefer to do that consultation, because instead of showing one house, maybe 3 weeks down the road, show another house or get back in the process to say, if this is something you want to do, let's find a few houses to look at that first day.
It makes sense on paper. And maybe once we get more inventory, it'll slow down a little bit, but stuff is still moving pretty quickly.
Yeah. Theory versus reality. You think that consumers are kind of coming around? They're starting to understand what buyer-broker agreements are?
Not yet as much. I think maybe in like a year or two.
Yeah.
Most people that I talk to haven't heard of it. I'm their first point of contact with that. We're the kind of the first people that are telling them why they're having to do it.
I just had a conversation this morning with a buyer that I've worked with in the past, sold his home, helped him buy a home. And he moved out of the area and came back. And I gave him some information about a buyer broker agreement. Then we sent it out for signatures. And he called me the first thing and he goes, "Is this a contract to buy the house?" I mean, because they're pretty long.
Right.
And I said, no. So we talked through it a little bit more. But that was, I think, to your point, Shannon, that's exactly how I kind of handle it. Is that's our opportunity when we do meet at a property to have that conversation and kind of educate them and get to know them. They can get to know us, see if there's a fit there. But you have to sign a document before even
get there.
Walk into the door. So that was a big shakeup in 2024. And we're still dealing with the repercussions of that, still educating people, edumacating. That's another Northwest thing. Just stop.
I didn't do anything.
You were thinking.
You were thinking it.
You're just bullying yourself now.
Yeah, rigor and pickleball and edumacated. Wrestle.
What's wrong with pickleball?
Hey, Northwest. I'm just saying. These are Northwest.
Is he saying it wrong?
No, he's saying it right.
Yeah.
So what's wrong with it?
No. I mean, pickleball started. Did you know when you start serving a pickleball, the person that serves first is in the northwest part or grid? And that's like a, what do you say? Amish? No,
an ode.
Oh, an ode. There you go. Help me with my words.
Are you trying to say homage?
Yeah, no.
Yes, you are.
Ode. No.
The Amish thing? That was homage to.
Homage to the Northwest. Homage. There you go.
Homage.
See?
We're all doing it wrong.
Okay.
We should redo this whole thing.
No. This goes on the blooper reel. So let's talk about some other things. It was a big election year. So there was, all kinds of contention there. And we got through that. Gosh, the amount of contracts that went pending the month before the election. I mean, usually we're up here, and then it was like in October, it was a dismal number. I don't think I've ever seen that low number of pendings in a single month in, I don't know.
Well, I think we always know during an election year, it's always uncertain. People don't have confidence. They don't have a lot of confidence. They're just sitting back and waiting to see what happens before they make a move. So it's not really surprising I think it kind of always happens.
It would have mattered who won either. I think
No.
it would have it would have just been done.
People are just going to stop before and wait to see what happens. And now that they have the information, now they're going to move forward with their life and they're going to start again. So I do agree that it's just, that always happens with the election.
And I think people, once the election was done, they thought it was going to be like, everything's better now. We're back to 3% interest rates and
Right.
inflation is gone and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. And what happened?
Yeah.
It all went worse.
Yeah. Nothing changed.
Well, and nothing really changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to, it took a while to get there. It's going to
take a while to undo. Exactly. It's going to take a while for it to change.
Yeah. So we had, but thank goodness the robo texts and stuff are done now. Because, oh my gosh, I don't know. How many were you getting a day? I was getting like 12 or 15.
So I'll be honest, I didn't get one.
Whoa.
And I don't know why. Because my husband's phone never, a StarTAC. I still use the StarTAC. I never received any of those, but my husband's phone, he literally couldn't even carry his phone with him anywhere because it never stopped. It was so intrusive. But I never got one.
Yeah.
We're still catching up on shows that we recorded that have like the political commercials. I'm so glad those are over.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that was an interesting part of the year.
Well, it did change. The high interest rates, the economy being tough, uncertainty with the election, all those things factored in. And it wasn't just that 1 month. I mean, I think, you're so much better at numbers than I am, Paul. Statistically, like 70% of realtors didn't close one transaction this year.
Yeah.
I have seen it. I have seen it on Facebook. I have seen very good realtors in our area saying, I haven't had a paycheck in, the last 2 quarters. I haven't had,
We're staying here locally a lot.
Yeah. And so, that I think has been part of the roller coaster of the year. We've dealt with a lot of change with the lawsuit. The economy has been difficult for a lot of people. They're sitting on the sidelines. The election, people just want to wait and see what's going to happen. So I'm hoping that all of that is behind us and next year's going to look better. But it was a roller coaster of a year. It was a difficult year.
Yeah. And they call me the Terminator because I was terminated.
You must have wrote and terminated as many as you actually closed.
Holy moly.
That's a lot of work. And I think people don't realize that, we do a lot of work to get there. And when it doesn't happen and then you start over again, we've worked so much harder this year for a lot less business than other years. I'm hoping this is just because of all the new things we had to deal with this year. And next year, maybe we'll be a little more even.
Yeah. I feel like it was a big part of it was that people were still coming off the high of like bidding wars and they were, sellers are still holding on. Interest rates jumped through the roof and buyers are having this.
Buyers need to negotiate now.
Pullback and then,
they can't go all in when you're talking about a 7% interest rate as opposed to a 2 or a 3.
And so then there was that discontent when you go under contract and then there's that negotiation, over inspection items. And, there was a lot of termination.
Buyers get more picky when that price is high and
the interest rates.
Yeah, they change their mind. That's just it. That payment is higher than if they would have been shopping a year ago. So, they change their mind. They'll fight to get it and then they start really having time to think about it. And the house needs to be a little bit better. I need a few more things done to make this work. I think this payment's a little too much. Yeah. All of that starts factoring in.
We've been in these high rates for over 2 years now.
Yeah. Because it started in 2022 is when it went from 3.25% up to 7%.
But I do think it was easier for people to take as inflation wasn't as high, as it just kept kind of peaked and peaked and peaked. It got a little harder and it is coming down, which is good. It is coming down. But I think that was kind of the tipping point. You can't have all those factors in place at the same time. You can't have, tough times at your job or, your hours being cut and higher prices at the gas pump and higher prices there and higher prices. But you can't have all, you can have one. Like if gas just goes through the roof, we complain.
Yeah.
But we keep living, if one thing is high, but when it's everything, I think that's when people really start figuring out how they're going to scale something back.
Yeah. And wages haven't caught up yet.
Right.
They weren't caught up before.
Yeah, they weren't. Yeah. A long way to go. Who shared the stat? I think it was 40% of the deals.
Yeah.
Was that you, Aspen? What was that stat?
It was something like 44% of deals fell through this year.
Yeah.
Across the country.
Across the country. Yeah. Not just here. Across the country.
Oof, that is. So maybe I'm not the Terminator.
We are literally doing the work
for a baby Terminator.
I think yours were like in the 30%. So you were below average.
Way below average in there. It sounds like my story of my life.
Below average.
Certainly with my
but in this case, being below average really is a testament to how well you did this year. Yeah.
My gosh, that's
good perspective to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had more terminate this year than normal, for sure.
No crap. Well,
it was a difficult year.
It was. And I think for a lot of realtors, I was talking to a friend of mine who is a really good friend with his realtor out in Florida. And he just said this realtor killed it for years. 7-8 years in the business. And this year when we went on a vacation with him, he said, that friend of mine that's a realtor, he said he's talking about getting out of the business because he can't. Could you imagine establishing your career and doing really well for 7 or 8 years, and it's so competitive and the market's so saturated and people aren't selling that you're forced to get out of the business 7 or 8 years in? That would be a tough pill to swallow. So.
But we did see this. We saw this in 2009. We saw all those people that were very successful and just decided, I'm just going to retire. I'm not going to ride out this recession, or people that were coming in and did really well their first couple of years and just said, I can't pay my bills anymore that fast. So we have seen that before.
Well, the thing for me is I can't retire right now. So,
right. Yeah.
Or not retire at the style that I want to retire.
There are those of us that don't have that.
So we don't have that choice. So
it's also called unemployed.
Yeah. Give me a shovel. No. So, but in all seriousness, it's been an interesting year, and we've had a lot of big things happen, and we'll see what 2025 brings, but we were not going to discuss that this episode because we're focusing on 2024. And speaking of 2024, we made some predictions 52 episodes ago. That's right. Take a deep breath.
You know what? We were new. We were just learning. We were new at this podcast thing. We didn't have,
That has nothing to do with podcasting.
We were nervous.
That's right. That's right.
Paul's always had zero expectations.
You know what? If Paul didn't win, we're not in the business. Who had his lending license at one time?
No,
that's right. That's right.
So if we don't win, that's okay, guys.
That's okay, because it's not our job to know those things. Right.
I think
I love it.
Shameful. You should just be ashamed of yourself, Paul.
I think
I lost horribly on the entrance exam podcast. So.
Luckily, there was no video.
There was no video.
Well, we all have our strong.
My face was as red as that shit over there.
That's awesome. Okay, well, let's just get right into it. So 1 year ago today, we gave our interest rate predictions, and let's just talk about what the interest rates actually did, because at the time of the podcast, they were 7.25%.
That was last January?
Last year, 1 year ago today, 7.25%. And so we all gave our predictions, but what it actually did was 7.25%. It peaked a little bit higher, and then it dropped down to 7.75%. And then towards the end of the year, we're down at 7.25%, closer to 7.5%. We're seeing rates even at 6%. But for comparison purposes here, let's say we went from 7.5 to 6.25 this year. Is that fair?
Yeah, that sounds right.
That made sense. What the rest of what you said?
Okay, so was I talking in circles?
I think you're saying the wrong numbers.
Okay, so this year we peaked around just under 7.5, and then we dropped to 6.25. Okay, so prediction number one. Let's start. Let me see here.
Start with the loser and just
start with the loser.
Like it's me.
Just start with
rip the Band-Aid off.
Just rip the Band-Aid off. Okay.
Yeah.
So Paul predicted a high of 7.4.
Oh, that was close.
And a low of 6.85. You didn't think there was going to be much movement.
That's still pretty close.
That was pretty good. That was good. I went a little higher. I went 7.55. And then adjust down to 6.75. So I was close.
Yeah.
I was close.
Almost right on.
Shannon went from 7.5 down to 6.5. So she had a full 1% swing, and that was pretty close. Ninja?
How bad is it?
7.45.
Okay.
With a low of 6.3. You are the winner, young lady.
Dang.
Wow.
Oh, it feels good.
Yeah.
Holy cow. So
what's today's interest rate?
So today's interest rate
Whatever
is.
I guess.
Yes,
Just ask.
I mean,
why are you asking Ben?
I just Googled.
Anywhere between 10 and 5.
I just Googled it and it said the average interest rate now is like 6.66 or something to that effect. But we did drop down. I mean, we locked in loans at 6 and a
my
quarter.
6.5 is pretty close.
You were pretty close. I mean, all of us were pretty close.
I am like nipping at her heels. I'm so close.
It's almost like maybe I went after you and just adjusted. Like Price is Right.
It was the Price is Right. Price is Right. If we listen to the episode, it was like, what is this? Price is Right? Because everyone was just kind of parlaying off each other. But Paul.
Wait, I lost.
Paul and me.
Yeah,
we're the big losers. So you and I are buying lunch
Shannon.
because if you kind of equal ours out, you and I, we are.
We didn't. We should have picked the rate.
We're in them.
So if you're interested in buying or selling, come straight to the professionals of the Lyons
The people that know what's happening.
Exactly.
The people that know what's happening for sure. So, so that was fun. We went back and listened. That was painful to listen to that first episode. And if
I would say most years we probably would have had a better grasp on what our year was going to look like.
Yeah.
Nobody expected this year what is going to look like the way 2024 looked.
Yeah.
I don't think
the fact that it stayed so high is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, but it's creeping down. I feel like it's going to come down a little bit. And we're going to talk about that this next episode. We have predictions for 2025, but we need to wrap up this episode. And a great conversation. Thank you for making fun of me along the way.
Always.
Ben nailed it. Lyons. We need to get you on a baking show, Paul Berry. You could do wonders, dude.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, let's maybe.
Find something I'm good at. It's not predictions.
Well, you have your license in everything under the sun. You may as well be like a fully licensed baker as
That's
well.
right. That's right. Well,
are they licensed?
No, but you could
you
get
gotta
that.
have food. You gotta have like a handler's permit, right? I mean, dropping beard hair and never mind. Don't even. Well, thank you for listening to this episode. Let's just go right to our outro.
Enough of this nonsense.
We wasted most of our time on the intro.
I do want to say congratulations to the Lyons Group for making it a full year of podcasting. What a great thing to celebrate. I'm very appreciative.
I just want to thank the people that listen because we appreciate you listening no matter
our
how
families.
bad we've been, how wrong we've been. Exactly.
All the
Our
pain.
three friends out there, thank you so much.
I know.
All the pain you've endured watching these episodes over the years, but
The 3 comments we've gotten.
the 3 comments, yeah. If you like
And
our content,
I want to
go
clarify
ahead.
too. I am not the president of the HOA. I am not the Karen of the HOA. I don't live in an HOA. I don't like HOAs.
And you got beat up pretty good on those, didn't
So
you?
follow us on our TikTok.
That's right.
But we're going to start advertising, right? We're going to start pushing this?
Yeah, we're going to start pushing. So thank you for listening to this episode of the Den. If you like our content, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to our Facebook page and follow our content there. And of course, you can schedule an appointment with any one of us here at the Lyons Group at sjcbroker.com. Whether you're looking to buy or sell residential or commercial properties, we can give you an advantage in today's market. Again, thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Thank you for listening to The Den, powered by the Lyons Group. Hit the subscribe button to keep informed on real estate happenings. If you'd like to learn more about the Lyons Group, visit sjcbroker.com. Complex markets require complex strategies. The Lyons Group can give you a true advantage in any market. Whether you're buying or selling, residential or commercial, contact us directly at sjcbroker.com. We're time-tested experts with a client-first approach, and we'll see you next time in the Den.